In this design scenario, I will make use of a built-in initiative definition that audits virtual machines with insecure security settings. In design scenario number 2, I have been instructed by my banking client to create an initiative that complies with data residency laws. To start with, the client wants all compute resources to be created and stored in South Africa. All resource groups must be located in South Africa, and each compute resource must be in the same location as the resource groups. To make my life easier, I will filter the definition types to initiative. From experience, the category I am going to use is called guest configuration. And the specific initiative I am interested in is the audit VMs with insecure password settings. It contains 18 inbuilt policies or 18 built-in policies. Now, considering this initiative already has defined policies of which I am satisfied with, I will immediately assign it to my DevOps resource group. After assigning the initiative to my DevOps resource group, I can identify the resources that are not in compliance. It takes about 30 minutes for the initiative to be started. For the sake of time, I will not wait for this to happen, but I will go ahead and create the policy in design scenario 2. If I search for location initiatives, I do not find any. This means I would have to create a custom initiative. To create a custom initiative, I go back to initiative definition. I'll call this geo-restricted location initiative. I put the description. The category I want is compute category. And now I can filter the available policies to locations. To meet my requirement, there are 3 different location policies which I could use. The audit resource location matches resource group location, audits that the resource group matches its resource group location. Now this is a policy I want. I'll add this to my initiative. The second policy is allowed locations. This policy enables you to restrict the locations your organizations can specify when deploying resources, used to enforce your geo-compliance requirements. I'll also add this policy. The allowed locations for resource groups. This policy enables you to restrict the locations your organization can create resource groups in. It's also used to enforce your geo-compliance requirements. I'm going to add this to my initiative. So currently I have 3 policies in my initiative. The audit resource location matches resource group location does not include any parameters I need to specify, but the allowed locations policy allows me to set a location. Also, the allowed locations for resource groups allows me to set different locations. So I will set the same locations, South Africa North and South Africa West. Now once this is done, I can save my initiative. To view this initiative and assign it to a scope, I will have to filter the definition types to initiatives only and the type to custom. It's already on initiative. I switch to custom, and here is my initiative, which consists of 3 policies. I will assign this initiative to the DevOps resource group. So if I go to assignments, I should be able to see the two initiatives I created. The first one is the geo-restricted location initiative, and the second initiative is to audit VMs with insecure password security settings. The next step is to verify compliance for each of these initiatives. Like I mentioned, it takes about 30 minutes for various initiatives to be started in Azure. In the meantime, I'm going to create resources and place them in the DevOps resource group and then monitor them for compliance. So I'm going to create a resource. I'll create this in the DevOps resource group. I'll call this simply test virtual machine. The location must be within Africa. So I put South Africa North. I'll define my own password. I'll leave every other configuration default. Review and create. So I pass every validation check, including my policies. I'll click create. So once our deployment is complete, we can go back into policy and verify if the resource meets our policy initiative or our initiative requirements. Now, once the resource is deployed, we can verify it for compliance by going back to policy and visit compliance. Once we open our compliance window, we see only 1 out of 2 non-compliance initiatives. There's also 1 out of 21 non-compliant policies and 1 out of 1 non-compliant resources. So we see that our resources passes the compliance test for audit VMs with insecure password security settings. But when it comes to geo-restricted location initiatives, we are not fully compliant. So I believe our compute resource wasn't created in a compliant resource group location. So I'll go to resource groups, and you can see that in the DevOps, the location of that resource group is Central India. Now, since I had created the resource group DevOps before creating the initiative, the policy couldn't deny the creation of this resource group. It only performs an audit. So it's up to me now to go back and remediate or ensure that this resource group is created within the African region. Currently, we cannot edit a resource group once it's created, but we can delete the resource group and create a new DevOps resource group within the right location. In summary, I have demonstrated 2 ways to create initiative definitions and assignments. So the first step was to create an audit VMs with insecure password settings initiative, which existed already and consisted of 18 built-in policies. So I did not have to create this initiative. I just assigned it to our DevOps resource group. The second task was to create a custom geo-restricted location initiative, and then I added 3 built-in policies into that initiative. And the next step was to assign it to the DevOps resource group. Once I've created both initiatives, I then created a resource in the DevOps resource group and was able to ensure that these resources in the resource group were being monitored by our initiatives, and using the compliance window, we're able to see which initiative is in compliance and which initiative is not in compliance. In our next lecture, we're going to look at the next step in achieving speed and control, which is management groups.